Hey, quick little note at the beginning here. This is a pretty rambly video of me just kind of dumping my thoughts on the new chapter. If you haven't played it yet, or, experienced the story in whatever your preferred way is, do that because this is not going to make a lot of sense. Okay, onto the video. So, I've wanted to make this video for a week now. I think that's how long Deltarune Chapter 5 has been out. I really wanted to just talk and ramble freely about it. I didn't want to have to worry about spoilers, which, I could have just put a spoiler warning because that's what everyone does, but I feel like a lot of people just don't listen to those and they, decide to just watch it anyway, which I'm guilty of that myself. So maybe I'm just projecting. I don't know. There is so much cool shit in this chapter that everyone, I feel like anyway, should just experience on their own, whether it be through the game or through whomever YouTubeists they watch. So just overall thoughts on the chapter right out of the gate. It was good. It was good. My main sort of criticism with it, I feel like anyway, was just that I wish I had better language for this, but it's just that the vibes were off. It's like, actually, no, I'll put it this way. Ever since chapter 1, Deltarune has distinguished itself from being Undertale, which is important because it is a parallel to Undertale, which, there's a whole conversation about this game and its relation to its predecessor. I don't know. I'm not interested in that discussion until the game is finished, at least. Then I feel like we'll have a better idea of what Deltarune was supposed to be in the context of Undertale. But for now, I just don't really care about Undertale, if I could be so completely honest. So yeah, this chapter felt, to me at least, a lot more Undertale than Deltarune usually does. And a lot of that might just be due to all of the, okay, this is gonna sound kind of disparaging. This chapter had a lot of Undertale sort of fan service in it, which, fan service, in my opinion anyway, is a neutral term. It's not inherently bad, although it can pretty often get in the way of whatever the product is in and of itself. But not in this case, I feel like, at least. You see this primarily with the 7 flowers, the 7 human souls. It did, I'll admit, take me a minute to warm up to these guys. Whenever I first fought Aqua, it was kind of just weird, but not in the usual Deltarune weird kind of way. It really was just, off. I think that might have been the intro with Flowery kind of putting me off, and the fact that they were at least resembling of humans, which we, don't see a lot of in this universe. For that first quarter, I think, of the chapter where we were mostly just interacting with Aqua and Seth as our main antagonists, while Flowery was just kind of off doing big bad evil guy things in the background, I wasn't super sold on it for whatever reason. And I'm pretty sure it was just the fact that I was kind of put off by how Undertale the chapter had been. That was up until we got to the yellow section. That empty text box where Susie and Rousey are just staring at each other in terror, thinking that they tricked Yellow into killing himself, was the hardest I have laughed at this game yet. I thoroughly enjoyed Yellow and Blue section. They had my favorite boss, non-boss fight, if that's what you want to call it. The sort of event fights, that are usually reserved for rules. While they're not the deepest side characters, mostly because they're 1, Darkners, and 2, Darkners that get introduced as a group, so they kind of inherently don't have a lot of room to grow as characters. These guys were honestly a really, really solid cast for this chapter. But Flowery, talking about Flowery is kind of layered in terms of what he provides the narrative. First of all, he is like kind of the first person to ever properly question the Fun Gang, which, we had King in the first chapter who wanted revenge against Lightners. But even then, it was more of just like intentionally, I believe anyway, intentionally sort of generic big bad evil guy motivations. With Flowery though, I think anyway, I'm pretty sure I'm a Deltarune fan, so who knows, maybe I can't read. He's the first character to really question if it's a good thing to close these fountains and to prevent these people from really being people. And also, just like, God, what can I even say about the shit that he brings out in Rousey that we just haven't seen from him? But like, especially in the final boss fight of the chapter, we genuinely get a glimpse into how Rousey feels about his place in the prophecy and how much he doesn't want it to come to fruition. Flowery even like calls him out on, yeah, you want me to win so badly, so why don't you just give up already? And he can't, because as much as Rousey hates the prophecy, he, for whatever reason that we'll hopefully see more of in chapters 6 and 7, he just has this weird need to follow it, which might have something to do with the weird route, given that it's pretty blatantly stated that the weird route is divergent of the prophecy, which, oh god, speaking of the weird route, god, I don't even know what to say about that. I saw this video about how it was very likely inspired by a glitch from the original Mother game, which, like, gives context to Mantown, actually, and the faraway place that you see through the binoculars in Mantown. But, like, God, I can't even get into the weird route here. I'm not going to dive into theory territory. This is purely just my thoughts and feelings on the narrative and the gameplay of Chapter 5. Because God knows we don't need another fucking theorist YouTuber. Oh my god, yeah, the gameplay. Deltarune fan moment, Jesus. Yeah, after Tina's introduction and Flowery's introduction, the 2D platformer introduction was like the third time this game has left me genuinely speechless. I really do hope that we get to see more of it in the coming chapters, but I feel like, unfortunately, chapters 6 and 7 are going to be a lot more, lore focused than chapter 5 was, with the whole announcement of this being the last fun adventure before the sun goes down. Which, it's really a shame. If I was making Deltarune, sure, if I was making Deltarune, I would want the final chapter to be a sort of culmination, both lore-wise and gameplay-wise, of everything that the game has offered. With general video game pacing, you see that a lot, where you're given a bunch of tools throughout the game to deal with the problems that the game throws at you, and then in the final level or the final world or whatever, you are made to use all the tools that you've been given in a more challenging environment. But I don't know, Deltarune just, maybe I'm too deep into the lore, but Deltarune just seems like it's more interested in telling its story than being a quote-unquote proper game. Which, there's nothing wrong with that. Yume Nikki, in my opinion, is one of the greatest games to ever be made, and that is so light on gameplay. It's to the point where I personally would say it's a lot closer to, or rather, it's better described as being interactive media than necessarily a game. So yeah, from what I've heard, I don't personally go looking around on Twitter for drama because I have better things to do, such as anything. But from what I've heard, there is a somewhat sizable number of people who are mad at Chapter 5 for being more gameplay focused and just generally not as lore heavy as some of the other chapters, saying it's like a filler episode right before the big finale, which, like, I feel like the pacing really needed that. Chapters 3 and 4 were so dense. 3 being a lot more dense with Chris and the Dreamer household, their sort of background, and chapter 4 being just general lore stuff, what with the literal pains of the prophecy being all throughout the chapter. That criticism is also completely ignoring all the character development that we got with Rouse, which I already talked about, so I won't, repeat it. A lot of people, and this isn't disparaging to anyone, I just feel like some people have gotten too lore-headed. And, like, they forget that Deltarune is a story and not just a puzzle, That's getting into fandom discourse, which I don't want to become a part of ever. God, I haven't even talked about Mew Mew. Man, I can't. Okay, legitimately, I cannot talk about Mew Mew and whatever this is. Mew Mew has dug her way into my brain in a way that no other character has, which, okay, I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to have Mew Mew quarantined into a separate video if ever I decide to make it. But just like Elevator talk about it, good boss, good character. I do not care that she's not super lore relevant. Her sprite has pink and yellow in it, and her boss theme, I think, sort of has the freedom motif for like a couple seconds. So ultimately, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. She's a secret boss. You can't do anything to stop that or change that. Fuck you. Yeah, so that's most of my thoughts on this chapter, boiled down into a very disorganized syrup of thoughts. So actually, I started working on a Mew Mew video before I even finished this one. So look forward to some random tranny autisming to you over this stupid anime parody character. God, I don't even know. You just have to watch it. You'll just have to watch it. I am baiting you. Like, subscribe,